Hello, we are here with eminent advocate Prashant Bhushan. Mr. Bhushan recently brought out the Sahara and Birla papers, which accused many prominent politicians of taking bribes from these two companies. So we are here. There are certain the Sahara scam, SR tapes, and the other scam related to over-invoicing of coal imports by prominent companies of India. So we are here to talk about many such issues with Mr. Bhushan. So, sir, so you recently brought to public notice the Sahara Diaries and the Birla papers, which the income tax department also has. So, could you please tell us a little bit about what these documents actually say or portend?
You see, in 2013, there was a CBI raid on the Birla Group of companies, Aditya Birla Group of companies, in particular Hindalco, in connection with the coal leases, in connection with this Coalgate scam. And in that raid, apart from recovering 25 crores in cash, the CBI also recovered some computer information stored in the computer of the CEO of the Birla Group, a man called Amitabh. In his one of the documents that was recovered from that, there were several documents which were recovered. Some of them showed bribes being paid or cash being paid to something called Environment Project J, which is obviously to the Ministry of Environment or to the Minister of Environment. And we know that around the same time, the Birla Group of companies were trying to secure environmental clearances from the Ministry of Environment for a large number of their projects. So those clearly represented bribes paid for getting those environmental clearances. There was another set of documents which was recovered, one of them which was from the computer of this Shubhendu Amitabh, which said Gujarat CM 25 crores, 12 paid, 13 question mark. Now, unfortunately, though these documents showed payments of bribes and therefore offences under the Prevention of Corruption Act, the CBI did not register any FIR on this matter, but just passed the papers on to the Income Tax Department. Income Tax Department did a somewhat detailed investigation into the matter. They questioned this fellow Amitabh many times, in which he admitted that yes, he had written Gujarat CM 25 crores in a note, 12 paid, 13 question mark. But he said that Gujarat CM meant Gujarat Alkalis and Chemicals. When he was asked what does C and M in Gujarat CM stand for, he was unable to give any response, and the Income Tax Department concluded that he was lying. They also found that there were a large number of cash, large amounts of cash which was being received through Hawala by the Birla Group of companies, and it apparently was being paid to various people. But despite all this finding contained in their appraisal report, the income tax did not refer the matter back to the CBI for investigation of these ostensible offences under the Prevention of Corruption Act, and the matter was sought to be buried at that level. After that, we understand that the Birla Group has approached the Income Tax Settlement Commission for settling the matter, and the hearings have been concluded, and perhaps the matter is likely to be settled, after which there is this apprehension that these papers which were seized in the raids would be returned back to the Birla Group. The Sahara raid took place on 22nd November 2014. In this raid, again, 137 crores of cash was seized from their offices here in Noida, from their corporate office of the chairman, and a large number of documents, some loose sheets, some information from computer from the personal staff of the chairman of Sahara were seized, which showed details of proposed payments as well as actual payments made to various very senior political figures. If you look at this document, which was one of the documents which was seized, which is again a computer printout of a spreadsheet. Now this document, you see, is a very detailed spreadsheet, which on this side, the first three columns represent the cash that the Sahara group received on different dates from different sources, and the total comes to 115 crores. Thereafter, this represents the cash payments to different people on different dates, different amounts, different people, and the places at which the payments have been made are also mentioned. The persons who have taken the payments are also mentioned. Now, and it is signed by the income tax officer, it is signed by two witnesses, and signed by one of the officers of Sahara. Several such documents were recovered in this raid on Sahara, in which, for example, this is another one which is partly overlapping. The only difference is that here in this document, the payments which are referred to as cash given at Ahmedabad Modi ji, in the other documents, same date, same payments, they are referred to as cash given to CM Gujarat. Similarly, there are payments, so there are 40 crores given to in Ahmedabad to Modi ji, which is also referred in other papers as CM Gujarat. There are 10 crores given to CM Madhya Pradesh, 4 crores to CM Chhattisgarh, 1 crore to CM Delhi, which at that time was Sheila Dikshit. These are all payments made between 2013 and March 2014. Now, despite recovery of such very, very incriminating documents and in such detail, which showed payoffs made to various senior political figures, the income tax did not refer this matter either to the CBI for investigation under the Prevention of Corruption Act. They apparently prepared some appraisal report which, according to my understanding, does not deal with these papers which were recovered, which showed these payoffs, etc. And these payoff documents, according to our information, were buried. And the person who was responsible for burying both these sets of documents of Birla as well as Sahara was a gentleman called Mr. K.V. Chaudhary, who was at that time heading the investigations of income tax, and thereafter was appointed, apparently as a reward, as the Central Chief Vigilance Commissioner of the Central Vigilance Commission. First time a revenue officer has been appointed, though there were a number of complaints against him. His name appears several times in the entry register of the infamous Ranjit Sinha, the CBI director Ranjit Sinha. He was involved in interfering with the income tax assessment of Ponti Chadha. He was also involved apparently in the Stock Guru scam, where the matter is apparently still under investigation. Despite that, this gentleman was appointed. So we had challenged his appointment as well as the appointment of another person who was appointed to the CVC. And because of our information that he played a major role in suppressing this information, we have now filed an application, because when I got these documents sometime in October, I sent a complaint to the CVC, to the CBDT, to the Enforcement Directorate, to the CBI, and to the SIT on black money, saying that, look, these are highly incriminating documents, and according to the principles laid down by the Supreme Court in the Hawala case, in the Jain Hawala case, this matter should have been investigated as to whether these payments were made, why were these payments made, whether they represent bribes or some other kind of payments, but none of that was done, and the matter was sought to be buried. So therefore we have eventually moved, the Supreme Court filed an application in the petition that we had filed challenging the appointment of the CVC, and that application will be heard now on Friday.
So the Sahara Diaries mention a lot of names, a lot of prominence, but it doesn't specifically name certain politicians when you say Delhi CM or so. Or are there more who are the other prominent politicians mentioned in the list?
Well, there's the Madhya Pradesh CM who was at that time Shivraj Singh. There is the Delhi CM who at that time was Sheila Dikshit. There is the Chhattisgarh CM who at that time was Raman Singh, and the Gujarat CM who at that time was Mr. Modi. Mr. Modi is also personally mentioned, Modi ji, in that. Largest payments, of course, are made to Mr. Modi, more than 40 crores in the Sahara Diaries. The one other politician who is mentioned prominently is one Shaina NC of the BJP, and one of the documents says that she was being asked to intercede with the Advocate General of Maharashtra for withdrawal of some case which was pending against Sahara, perhaps the SEBI case,
yes,
which was pending
which
against
is mentioned
Sahara.
as the Bombay case in the papers.
In the papers, yes.
So right now what we have is the Modi government is already in the know of these papers because they've already written to various agencies. What is the kind of replies that you got from the government?
Well, I only received one response from the CVC after 10 days saying that, will you please confirm whether you have sent this complaint? And I immediately confirmed that yes, I have sent this complaint.
Yes.
And I am not aware as to what they have done or whether they have done anything in this matter, because unfortunately it seems that the CVC himself, as the head of investigation of income tax, was responsible for suppressing this.
The income tax department has already filed an appraisal report back in 2014.
I don't know whether 2015 probably.
So what could be the way? What would be the way ahead? How can these people, or how can the matter be investigated now? The income tax appraisal report has to go back to one of the investigative agencies, or what could the Modi government do right now to investigate the case?
Well, of course, no investigation done by an agency controlled by the government would carry any credibility in this matter, because when the names of the top people in the government are mentioned as the major recipients of these payoffs, obviously you cannot trust any government agency to investigate this matter. This would have to be investigated by some SIT or some court-monitored investigation by the Supreme Court. That is what we have asked for. Now, investigation in this case was easily possible because the persons who have carried the money, who are the carriers of the money, are mentioned. They are known to be, the income tax had found out that they were employees in the personal staff of the chairman. Sawant, Uday Sawant, this Jaiswal and so on who are mentioned, they were all identified. And their telephone numbers and mobile numbers that they were using had also been identified. Now it was easy to find out whether these people who are mentioned as being the carriers of the payment were indeed at those places where the payments are shown to have been made in this. That could have been easily investigated. Then these people ought to have been questioned that you received so much cash. Have you delivered this cash? What did you do with this cash? Because they would have to explain as to what did they do with this cash, this 115 crores cash which they have shown to have received. What happened to that cash? So all that could have been investigated, should have been investigated. These persons who are supposed to have received the money should have also been asked. Of course, they would deny it, but still the investigation needed to go into all these aspects. They could have checked whether these people were present on that date in that place or not, the persons who have received and the persons who have delivered the money, and their phone records would have shown.
So, but yeah, like the Birla papers clear makes it apparent that the then environment minister was made some payments by the Birla group in exchange of certain favors of like the environmental clearance the Hindalco company was seeking that point of time. But does the Sahara papers also mentions what were the favors done to these companies in exchange of the alleged payments?
No, the Sahara papers don't mention that. And in fact, some of the Sahara papers seem to suggest that these were general kind of payments being made to influential people in order to just keep them happy and perhaps close to the elections as kind of political donations. But in any case, many of these people were senior public servants. Sahara certainly had operations in all these states, including Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Delhi, etc. And one would have to investigate whether any kind of quid pro quo was there or not, and whether they were just political donations or black money donations, etc., which have not been shown by these politicians in their party returns, etc. The Sahara papers also mention payments of 15 crores to the BJP office. And all this happens at the time when Mr. Modi had taken over as the president of the BJP.
Prime ministerial candidate.
And as the prime ministerial candidate, yeah.
Of the BJP.
Right.
So which brings us to the larger question, which is about the politics, government, corporate nexus, which you also have been talking about quite often. So a few months before, you had also kind of been highlighting the Essar tapes, which showed Essar tapping into phones of various prominent persons in the government and elsewhere. So and also a few months before we also came to know of a scam where both Adani and Ambani and various other private companies over-invoiced the coal that they imported, and the burden of which directly passed on to the consumer. So it all points out to these kind of scams. So we have 3 scams, and what do you want to say about this? How does it grow? What do you have to talk about the Essar tapes and the coal invoicing, over-invoicing of coal imports?
Yeah, of course, those are major scams. In fact, it's not just the Essar tapes, the Essar emails. There was a whistleblower in the corporate office of Essar Corporation who uncovered a very large number of internal emails of Essar from their corporate office, which showed a very systematic attempt to bribe a large number of senior public servants, a very large spectrum of senior public servants, just as somewhat similar to the Sahara case. Again, I mean, those emails have been with the government. They are subject matter of a petition which I have filed in the Supreme Court. The government has been asked to respond to that, but there has been no response from the government so far. They have been just sitting over this matter because a large number of these payoffs implicate senior people from the BJP, from the ruling party. Of course, they implicate other people from the Congress, etc. also, just as the Sahara papers as well as the Birla papers implicate Congress people as well. But because they also implicate the BJP people, therefore this government has just been sitting on them. Same thing about the over-invoicing of coal imports by the Adani group, as well as some other groups like Reliance, etc., where the Department of Revenue Intelligence has itself uncovered the entire evidence showing over-invoicing through bogus companies registered in tax havens by the Adani group, etc., through whom this over-invoicing was done. All this evidence is available with the government, but again nothing was done. I had myself sent 2 documented complaints, fully documented complaints, one against Mukesh Ambani, which showed that 6,500 crores was brought in to 400% owned Mukesh Ambani companies through a fictitious Singapore company which had no assets, no income, no business, nothing. But the largest FDI from Singapore came in through that fictitious company. The Indian High Commission in Singapore had at that very time in 2011 written to the Ministry of Finance saying that this is a very suspicious FDI and this needs to be investigated. But the UPA government at that time didn't do anything about this. When I came to know, at that time Mr. Modi had just become the Prime Minister, I sent a complaint to him saying that, look, this is the evidence which the Indian High Commission has itself written, that this is clearly, which means that this Reliance has again siphoned out money from their company through over-invoicing, etc., which is also reported by the CAG in their KG-D6 basin, that they had over-invoiced a lot of purchases. And that siphoned out money has been thereafter laundered through this fictitious Singapore company and brought into Mukesh Ambani's companies. Nothing was done. Same thing I wrote against Anil Ambani. In that, the income tax department had carried out some investigations about $750 million, again brought in through the Singapore route into Anil Ambani's 100% owned companies from a bogus fictitious company. Now, these are classic ways of money laundering, first siphoning out money from their companies, thereafter laundering it and then bringing it back into their accounts. Nothing has been done about this. It was well known that participatory notes is one very large anonymous investment device through which black money is laundered and invested in the stock market. Because participatory notes are anonymous, you can't come to know who is the holder of that participatory note. They are purchased from outside and then through that investments are made in the stock market in India. I had written to Mr. Modi immediately after he became the Prime Minister that you are talking about curbing black money. Please at least stop these anonymous investment devices like participatory notes and FDIs from tax haven companies. Because when a tax haven company makes an investment in India, you can't come to know as to who are the owners of that company, who are the shareholders and the beneficial owners of that company. And therefore this becomes an easy way, like the Singapore route which was adopted by the Ambanis, is an easy way of laundering illicit money which has been siphoned out from their companies or which is crime money or bribe money, etc. Now, if the Prime Minister wanted to carry out a surgical strike against black money, he should have gone against all these Essar, Ambanis, Adani, against holders of participatory notes, against all these tax haven investments coming from tax havens, etc., or against these holders of the Panama accounts which came out in the Panama papers, or these Swiss bank accounts, etc. He would have got lakhs of crores of black money, and that would have been a surgical strike on the people who are known to be holding black money and large amounts of black money. Instead of that, this demonetization is touted as a surgical strike when you know that you are taking out 86% of the currency in circulation. Most of the poor people, half the poor people in this country have no accounts, have no bank accounts. They don't have any ATM cards, etc. And therefore they are holding their savings in cash. And they can't use that. They are in very, very serious trouble. Farmers are in serious trouble. People are dying in queues. People are dying due to malnutrition, people are losing their jobs, the whole economy has taken a huge hit, especially the poor people, in the name of carrying out a surgical strike on black money, when in fact it is just a ham-handed attempt. It's, as Arun Shori pointed out, it's a surgical or it's a strike against currency. It's a strike against the legal tender.
Thank you for watching, and I hope many of these issues are now much more clearer, and we hope to bring you more information on this in subsequent days.